Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237 and another episode of Reslashed, the show where I take a classic horror film, its modern day remake, I compare them and ultimately see if a remake was even needed. And today's episode is on one of my favorite slashers of all time, My Bloody Valentine from 1981, and comparing it with its 2009 remake counterpart. So, right off the bat, I will just say that yes, this is one of my favorite slashers. Now, I like Friday the 13th and Halloween more, but as far as ones that standalone slasher films, this is up there with Maniac and The Burning. Maybe even more than The Burning, but up there with Maniac. Just, yeah, they wanted to purposely chose a holiday, purposely chose, a different location. But it worked. Everything about this works. And I think it's a classic. This one, and I've reviewed both of these already. This is under my 70s and 80s slasher playlist. This is under my horror remakes playlist. I reviewed this last week. This one, in a nutshell, I'll say in my opinion, it's alright. It is very different from this, but I guess that's what we're here to compare. So first off, let's talk about the cast. Now, obviously, in this film, it was a low-budget Canadian film. A lot of slash films back then were made in Canada because they were cheaper. It doesn't have anyone that I'm familiar with. Paul Kellman, Laurie Hollier, Neil Affleck. I don't know who any of these people are, but I will say that the performances feel authentic. A lot of the movies, them just joking around, goofing off with each other. But I will say that as far as like early 80s slasher films go, I'll say it was better acting than most. This one has more familiar faces. I mean, obviously it has Jensen Ackles, Jamie King, Tom Atkins, who's, a horror icon. Kerr Smith, I'm not too familiar with him. It has familiar faces. A lot of times, for me, if you take really famous people, other than like a Tom Atkins or Robert Englund or a Kane Hodder or an Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, whoever, it can take away from it. Of course, everyone knows Jensen Ackles from Supernatural. I was mixed on it. Like, Jensen Ackles, he didn't really do anything for me. It felt, some of it just felt very dry and bland, and then when he's supposed to be the killer, I didn't buy the whole face that he's doing. I mean, I liked Jamie King, I liked Tom Atkins, but Tom Atkins barely in the movie. So I would say I enjoyed the cast in this more. So I give the cast point to the original. Atmosphere, okay. Now, with this film, yes, they wanted to make a film around Valentine's Day, and they thought that, a coal miner was an interesting look for a killer, so why not put it in a mine? A lot of this takes place in the mine, and I think that helps. It's dark, it's creepy, there's lots of echo. The only way you can really go is deeper. Especially, the point where, I can't remember what happens, but, they have to climb hundreds of feet of ladder. The atmosphere is very strong in this movie. This one, not so much. They're really only in the mine for 3 scenes, and they're kind of short. Most of it is just killings around the town or in someone's house. It's not... This movie doesn't really have any atmosphere to it. It doesn't... even with this one, you kind of... when you see the guys down in the mine, they're covered in soot and dirt. When you hear their echoes, you can hear the drips, from the roof of the mine. Much stronger atmosphere in this than this, especially. So, atmosphere definitely goes to this one. The score... Oh, scares. Well, this one was more subtle. This one was more like a slasher film. This one was the typical... is Lionsgate, so you have a lot of jump scares. It's kind of hard to say scares, because I don't really find movies scary anymore. I haven't since I was very young, because I've been watching movies for so long. I would say the scares in this one are more earned. Like in, like the part... Like, one guy gets killed, either drowning or burning, whichever, head into a pot of boiling hot dogs. And, it sets up its scares, is what I'm trying to say, because then his head ends up in the freezer, and you see people getting stuff out of the freezer. When they move stuff, you see the head, and you're just waiting for someone to find it. Or when the one girl, probably my favorite kill, because it's a POV shot of, grabs this girl's head, sticks her head onto this, pipe with water coming out of it. Her boyfriend comes back, and you see her in the background, and, this movie sets up and earns its scares. This has a lot of jump scares, lots of loud noises. It doesn't really feel as... It has some intense scenes, like when he goes to kill the little person. I'll give it that. But yeah, it doesn't really build that much suspense, which this movie isn't quite as suspenseful either. But I would say the sense of dread is probably higher in this one. Although, which I can use this as a segue into the next bit, the killer himself. Now, I've always thought Harry Warden was an underrated slasher killer. I think he has a really cool look to him, which this film is very faithful to. Looks a lot like the original. They don't go all, it's not like they made like an Uber Jason version of him. This one, in the original, it's like he more so just shows up for his kills. He does have the scene where, he's banging out the lights. This one seems more unstoppable. I will say that. He'll stop at nothing to kill people. He's always... I can't remember if, the Darth Vader breathing was more evident in this one or this one. But I will have to say, I think he was a bit more menacing and, unstoppable in this one. However, yes, this one earns its scares more. But yeah, this one's more... he's more like Jason in this one, like a Kane Hodder Jason in this. So, but there's also his backstory. Now, I can believe Harry Warden, his backstory, he got caved in with 6 other men, and over days and weeks, he ate them to survive, and it drove him mad, and he became a killer. I can buy that more than I can just some minor just killing guys to save his own oxygen and then becoming a serial killer. So, I'm going to call this one a draw. Alright, next is... Oh, this one's going to be no contest. The effects. Okay. One of the reasons why this is one of my top favorite slashers is because the gore effects are beautiful in this. 1981, so of course it's all fucking practical. You know, it's bloody. It is gory. I mean, the human hearts look great. You have the woman that gets put in the dryer. She's all like melted and steaming, which is in this one too. But the gore is much better in this one. This, which originally it was released as 3D. You can buy the 3D version. I just got 2D because it was cheaper and I don't need to see it on 3D. I have seen it in 3D. And I can say, you know, some of the effects, like when he throws the pickaxe, or like when there's that one naked chick that has the frame of the bed, like for protection, and the pickaxe is like going through some of it, you know, that it did have its 3D moments. So, and also with it being 3D, a lot of your effects have to be CGI. And that's where most of this goes. I mean, okay, like the shovel girl, I think is what they call her. The girl that gets the shovel here, then when he hits it, it like decapitates her from the jaw up, and you see the head kind of slide down the shovel. I guess that was done practically, like they had a practical head and like a rod so they can like move it, but it's got a shit ton of CGI around it. Or even like Tom Atkins' death, where he has the pickaxe through here and out his mouth. You don't really see much of an effect of him ripping the jaw off, but there's plenty of CGI blood. The effects are a no-brainer, hands down. This. Some of my favorite gore effects and kills in a slasher film. So then there's the score. You know, honestly, the score, I don't really remember much of a score for either one. This one was more of just like a typical Lionsgate horror movie score that's not memorable. I really like the Harry Warden folk song in this one. So I'll have to go to this. So, cast, effects, atmosphere, and score, and I guess scares, all go to this one. It's almost all hands down except for the killer himself, which I say is a draw. Now, I would say it's not a great remake at all. It's not great. It's not Dawn of the Dead. It's not Hills Have Eyes. But it's also not The Fog or, you know, Fright Night. It's not those. It's sort of a middle of the road, kind of there. Ultimately, you know, I like the fact it's a group of friends. Also, this movie, the characters had more chemistry and likable characters, definitely. There's really no likable characters in this one. This one did have a love triangle, you know, between TJ or Tom in the remake, Axel, and the girl. But that was kind of underplayed in this. Oh, also, I should have mentioned during Killer, because Harry Warden's not the killer in either one, at least not during the main story. Axel sees his father being killed by Harry Warden as a young child, so now he becomes Harry. This one, Tom's traumatized, I guess, and has split personality. Which, I mean, I guess Axel does too, but it was more believable in this one. Also, it was executed much better in this one, because it had, you know, the flashback of, you know, the way early 80s slasher films did that. Now, so back to saying about, you know, not great, not terrible. It is middle of the road. I mean, I guess I can see why they thought this would be a good, of the slasher films, I guess, to go 3D. You know, because you can do a lot with the pickaxe. Like, someone gets killed, like, through here, but their eyeball comes out, and that's popping off the screen. And this one does have enough of a cult status where, you know, people might go see this. Which, this came out in 2009, so I was a junior. It was either second semester junior, first semester senior, whenever. Well, let's see. February, I was a junior in high school. I didn't know about this movie. I hadn't really gotten into slashers yet. Or I did, but, you know. But this movie doesn't really add anything. I mean, it does do enough different things. Like, it's not all in the mind. It's more about the town and going after certain townspeople. He does have a certain hit list in this. Kind of unlike this one. But, you know, the things it adds, it's not really as good. You know, it adds more drama to the characters. The killer is a bit more unstoppable and kind of more menacing, I guess, in this one. But I like the subtlety in this one more. Like Michael Myers. He's more like Kane Hodder, Jason, Nick Castle, Michael Myers. That's kind of how it is. So, I would say, by itself, it could have just been another, or one of the more decent Lionsgate kind of slasher movies. But I don't really think My Bloody Valentine needed to be remade. I mean, okay. I'm always going to say no movies. I'm always going to say you don't need remakes. But, yeah, I don't really see what this added to the name My Bloody Valentine except a 3D gimmick and more of a prettier cast, I guess. It made a shit ton of money, so I mean, good for Lionsgate. But, yeah, ultimately, I'm always going to stick with this movie. If you like this one more, you know, then good for you. I'm not going to take it from you. I guess this one is more deserving than most. I'll give it that. But this movie's always, for me, going to be infinitely better. So that's one of the more positive re-slashed episodes I've done yet. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.